Can a knife company do well by doing good? Hi there, knife people, hello lady and gentlemen.
This Microtech Cypher II will help us answer the question.
I know you want to know more about it, but before I do, I want to point out to you that I paid for this knife out of my own pocket. Nobody sent it to me. And the knives you've seen before and knives that you've never seen in my video is going to be paid out of my pocket. And the reason I'm doing this that way, the reason I'm not planning to get affiliated with any knife company is this is like literally the last tiny spot on the map where an American industry still has competitive edge in the world. You know, I live here. I'm an American by choice, and I love this country, and I want us to do well. And maybe that's the industry where we're going to start coming back. The only way we get there is by not giving ourselves excuses to do poorly. You know the saying, excuses are like apples, everyone got one, and they all stink. So tonight's video is about a knife and a company that forgoes the excuses and applies good, solid engineering principles and manufacturing practices to build a product that will blow just about anything else out there out of the water. This is actually a proof edition, which I happened to be in Reno, Nevada. I walked into a big sports store and they had it for sale. And the price was not even jacked up. It was basically the price you'd get anywhere, except everywhere they sold out of these proof edition. I'm not a big Microtech collector, and I'm really not impressed by Ramlock, for example. But what they do with the OTFs is just great. I was thinking, how it's a little bit of a gimmick, the screwless OTFs. So after I bought this knife and I took a look inside it, I realized what is so great, because these guys, they're killing it, right? Instead of moaning about manufacturing costs because of good labor hard to find or is very expensive, they simplified the construction of this knife to this point where almost anyone can put it together, right? It requires a lot less of highly qualified labor to put this knife together than any previous Microtech. But at the same time, they made it stronger, more reliable, and I'll prove all this to you in a second here, more reliable, and while they were at it, they reduced their manufacturing costs. I don't know what else can we possibly demand from a knife company. So I'm going to change the camera angle and open this thing up, and I don't mean disassemble. I'm going to open it up. It does not disassemble, it opens. So watch.
Anyone has something like that at home. First step is always to disengage the blade. And please don't say take it off tracks or take it off the rails. There's nothing that's coming off any rails whenever an OTF unlocks. It just gets disengaged from the stop plates or lock gates, however you want to call them. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. So you take this T30 and you unscrew right here. And all it takes is 4.5 turns. And another 4.5 turns here. And now you're going to go to the thin side of the knife. And by thin, see how there's a line here? Thin. And then you're going to push it this way 2 millimeters. Right there. Did you hear the click? No, came out? Yeah. So I keep forgetting. You have to kind of make sure this little spring doesn't fly away. But if it does, all it will do is rattle a little bit. This is just to create tension on the switch here. All right, so here I am looking or showing you what I wanted to show you to begin with. And for you to see better, I'm going to remove, this is the main spring assembly. High polish. This lube here is to reduce the rattle of the springs. So this is what I wanted to show you. Well, I mentioned the lock gate. This is the lock gate. As you can see, there's no way for this blade to come off any tracks. I can do whatever I want to it. It won't come off. It's held in place here and can't even slide out until I take this out. And if you feel compelled to take this out, use a magnet. It's probably the easiest way. Any little magnet will work. And now the blade comes off. Simple. No extra holes, no nothing. Just a very basic tank shape. You can see the heat treat tester hole. So I don't know if I don't recall seeing it on every Microtech, but this one has it. Maybe because it's a proof run. And those are the lock gates. And each sits in a nest and it's spring loaded. What I really wanted to show you is how it all goes together. So you can see these are recesses. There are 4 of them. And right here, see the reinforced metal right here and here? It's also reinforced in the front here. If you look sideways, you will see that there is like a channel that the head of these screws wedges into. It's kind of dovetailing, but in a circular sort of dovetail pattern. It creates this tapered lockup, which is a lot stronger than a square lockup because these heads, they're not flat, they're tapered on the bottom. And the way it looks to me, there may be 20, 30-degree taper, which is a good, strong engagement. So if the force is applied from this direction, it transfers, this taper splits it in a vertical direction down into the thickness of the material, and only a fraction of it goes back into the handle. So it's a very strong connection from a mechanical standpoint. These are pretty sizable screws, T8. So I'm going to take one of these screws out. You can see the taper a little better on the head. And it's a decent sized screw, but most importantly, it has this shoulder here, which is sitting on top of this shoulder machined into the frame. So what it creates is, instead of loading the threads in shear, this guy will transfer any horizontal load in shear direction into the shoulder, and the shoulder on the frame and the shoulder on the screw, they are torqued together so they form almost a solid surface. The thing about screws, they're failure points, right? A screw can be over torqued, it can come loose, it can work itself loose, or if you put Loctite, you can potentially strip it trying to take it out. Happens. I've been through all of these situations. Here's a company that in one swoop simplified assembly, improved reliability by at least 50%, and reduced the production costs, labor costs, warranty repair costs, because these screws, remember, there's no way for them to come out. Right now, they're in a situation where they're tightened and compressed in. There's no way for these screws to loosen up or come out. This is genius, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, while I was filming this video, my channel hit 5,000 subscribers. 5,000! 5,000 of you subscribe to my content. I would not believe it if somebody told me a year ago when I started publishing videos that many people will care to hear what I have to say. This just goes to show that there's still room for an unbiased, unaffiliated, independent, patriotic reviewer on YouTube. So let's take it to the next level together. Let's keep subscribing, sharing my content, and hitting these all these bells and buttons. Thank you.
And here's one more area of improvement that Microtech implemented. As you may notice, there is now a diagonal serration pattern inside the switch channel. The reason it's there, it's twofold. Firstly, it makes the switch feel like it's running on roller pin bearings. And secondarily, it improves reliability. It is well known that if you expose an OTF to sand, grit, or even pocket lint, it can potentially jam the switch lever. I even published a video showing how susceptible to this OTFs are. But now that you have these grooves, the grains of sands and grit has place to go. They'll get wedged into these grooves and not prevent this button from sliding. This is a concept that was introduced in the Fabrique Nationale FN FAL rifle by the Brits. When they took the rifle to the desert, they found out that the bolt carrier would get packed with sand that would stick to the lubrication on the surface of the carrier. So what they did, they cut zigzag patterns into the bolt carrier, and now the sand, the grit has place to sort of accumulate until the soldier would clean the rifle. So Microtech is borrowing the same principle, and I don't know if FN invented it or there are probably other firearms that had that principle implemented before. But anyway, here Microtech is following this idea in order to make knife A, more reliable for us, and B, reduce their own repair costs that would have resulted from us sending knives that are jammed with grains of sand. Doing well by doing good.